So Leica has a new app, this whole celebrating 100-year thing that they're doing. It's called Leica LUX. Now, I came across this app in my YouTube feed. I saw a video by Peter McKinnon, and I said, this is interesting. I'll take a look at it. I found the video kind of confusing. There's an awful lot of like hunting with bows and arrows and cooking over fire, and not a whole lot about why the app does what it does and how it really looks and the pros and cons of it. He enthusiastically endorses this app. He says it's better than the iPhone. I take the exact opposite position. I think the app is a waste of money. And I don't think it's any better than the iPhone. I think it's just skinned to look prettier. And if you're a Leica fan, you'll love it. But if you're actually looking at it from a legit standpoint, you're going to see what this really is, which is nothing great and nothing new. So let's talk about the app for a minute. What the app does, or what it says it does, is it's going to give you the look of certain Leica lenses. So they have the ability of emulating, which I'm not so sure it really does that, a 50mm Noctilux, a 35mm, 28mm, and these lenses are all in there, and you're going to have the ability of emulating the look. I'm going to show you some side-by-sides of what they say a Noctilux looks like, and I'm going to show you an actual Noctilux image on an original monochrome camera as well as on a film negative, and you're going to see they are very different looking than what Leica is reporting that this app can do. Additionally, I don't think that the iPhone yet is going to be capable to emulate the look of these lenses. I think that's still a couple years out. I think it will eventually happen. But for right now, all Leica's doing when you choose these lenses and you choose it in aperture mode is it's using the portrait mode that the camera already has. Now, if you've used the portrait mode on an iPhone, I've got an iPhone 15 Pro Max that I'm filming with here, you know that it tries to create an out of focus rendering around whatever you're tapping on as the focus. And you can then slide back and forth and adjust that depth of field. We all know that when you get down to like f2, f1.2, even f2.8, a lot of times the blend line between what's in focus and what's out of focus is kind of jaggedy and kind of bad. It's really hit or miss. I, for one, almost never use portrait mode on the iPhone at anything less than, say, f4. I just find that it's too distracting and that transition isn't great. And I almost never use portrait mode, and the reason is, why do I want to use a lower quality image? And this is the thing that kind of baffles me why Leica did this. By using the portrait mode when you're under the aperture, the selected aperture mode, you're not getting the full resolution of what the iPhone is capable of doing. The iPhone in max mode with its best lens will give you a DNG that's a 48 megapixel. It's a beautiful 230 some megabyte file. I use it all the time and it's quite good. If I want to create an out of focus rendering, I would be smarter, we all would be smarter, not to do it in an app like this, but to do it in a post-production way. Do it in Photoshop, do it in Lightroom, do it in Snapseed, for God's sakes. All of those programs do it better than this app or the phone does in the phone itself. So that's one thing that I didn't like. Additionally, they have all these different settings for emulating, once again, different films and different looks. And they're okay, but they're nothing great. I would much rather, once again, focus on getting a good neutral DNG 48 megapixel file and then take that and in post-production make it better. And so if you put it on the regular camera mode, not the aperture mode, depending on the lens you've selected, you may actually get a DNG. But if you're on any other lens than what's the prime perfect lens on an iPhone, what you're going to get is that 12 megapixel file. Once again, you're making compromises, and compromises that I don't think we need to make. So what I thought I would do now is let's just take a look at some samples. I mean, I've been talking here for a few minutes. Let me show you samples. Let me show you actual side-by-sides so you can see what I've been now talking about. So in this first image here, what we're seeing is my wife, Eve. And we can see this is shot supposedly to look like a Noctilux Leica lens at f1.2. And it's not great. It's not bad, but if we zoom into her hair, you can see all sorts of the problems that I've been talking about. It looks terrible. You can see where the definition between in and out of focus is crunchy and bad. Let's take a look at the image of me, the actual one of me as the thumbnail for this video. Once again, the bowstring is missing on the top and bottom. The outline on the back of my shirt is terrible. The tip of the arrow and the arrow itself goes in and out of focus. That's where the software is breaking down. We're not quite at that technology yet, and I do think we will get there, where it will be possible to do really beautiful out-of-focus renderings through AI. Let me show you some images of what a natural lux really looks like. So here's a portrait that I did of my daughter with the original Leica monochrome that had the CCD, not the vastly inferior version that they're making now with the CMOS sensor. So anyways, look at this image. Look at how beautiful it is. This is with a natural lux at 0.95. It is so creamy. It is so beautiful. It's too smooth and too perfect for what I like, but I'm really impressed. Look at her hair. Look at how subtle the transitions are within that hair. Does that look like this portrait of my wife here that I'm showing you again? Absolutely not. This just shows you how bad this technology fails when you're trying to compare it to something optically. Now, another thing that they have in this app, they will show you how you can emulate particular films. And they actually have a preset built in there by a photographer, and it's supposed to look like Tri-X. It looks nothing like Tri-X. It looks like, the grain looks like mashed potato and mayonnaise, and not salt and pepper. It's not beautiful. I mean, Tri-X can have a lot of different looks depending on the developer. You can have a look of a solvent developer, a harder edge developer. There's just a million different ways to use it. I happen to like it in diaphine. I feel the grain is there, it has a presence, yet it's absolutely beautiful. Look at this Tri-X that you're looking at right now. This is once again a portrait of my youngest daughter. This is back in 2013. This is with one of my Leica cameras, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It feels like Tri-X. Look at the image of my wife again. Does that feel like this? No, it doesn't. It's not even close. So I don't think that the way that they're replicating the look of the film is very good either. So one other quick note that I wanted to point out is when we zoom into the hair, by adding the grain that Leica has added in this image to, quote unquote, simulate the look of Tri-X, it does help blend out the artifacts and the problems of the out of focus rendering. This is a really common technique that I use, a lot of photographers use. Back in the old days when printing was much simpler than it is today, it was very common to add just a little tiny bit of noise to a sky, something that would be imperceptible to the eye, but it would help blend that tonality. So by having this look of the natural lux at f1.2 with Tri-X, that grain helps, but I don't think it fixes. And you'll also see that in some of the other images with the other, quote unquote, simulated lenses they have, where there is soft focus quality, and yet the soft focus is helping mask a lot of the problems with the file. So the problem with all these programs that replicate or try to simulate the look of a film is that unless you have prior knowledge of what that film actually looks like, you might be convinced that, oh, well, this is what Tri-X looks like, or this is what a cross looks like, or this is what the color of Kodachrome looks like, when in reality, it's not that close. It takes the ability of having used the actual film to know what the film looks like to bring it into that sort of parameter, if that matters to you. But to me, when someone's trying to say, this is the look of Tri-X, and I know it's not the look of Tri-X, that just makes me mad. Right, so in conclusion, this is not a terrible app. It's just a kind of good app with a really expensive price point. And that's the big problem that I have. It's not really emulating and simulating the look of these lenses. The films that they're emulating are okay. But the fact that by using the coolest mode that the program has, which is the aperture mode, you're automatically sacrificing the maximum quality that your iPhone can give you, to me is a no-starter. Better technique. Shoot with your phone, 1x lens, DNG, edit the files in something like Photoshop, Lightroom, whatever. It's going to be so much better. But I know there are a lot of Leica fans out there, and I'm one of them. I love Leica cameras. I just don't like the crap that they've been pulling recently. But, if you want to use this program and you want to have the word Leica go around it, fine. Just understand that you're not really getting the best that your phone can do. And to me, that makes no sense in 2025 that we have to make that type of compromise. Thank you very much for listening. Now go shoot some film.